Well, on paper, it's the ultimate first world problem. Australia has more work than workers. Our economy is so fired up that anybody who wants a job can have one. The signs are everywhere, especially in shop windows, asking passers-by to please come in and help serve customers, unload delivery vans and whatever else is necessary to keep the business operating. Some are so desperate that they are adding enticements far and above the usual award rates. The Sydney Morning Herald reported on the weekend that electricians were sometimes being offered a sign-on bonus of a handy $10,000. Incentives in the hospitality industry included vouchers for restaurants, free training, shorter working weeks and so on. Junior chefs can earn north of $100K a year, and baristas are pulling in $60 an hour. This was actually anticipated. The Economist magazine said as far back as April last year that massive disruptions to economies, such as wars and pandemics, are invariably followed by a rebounding of optimism, an instant boost in consumer spending and even innovative ways of streamlining old work patterns, which we've seen this time around in the persistence of the work from home phenomenon. But if that sounds too good to be true, you're right. The Economist also warned that an economic disruption can also lead to unrest and political upheaval. As an example, it cited the June Rebellion in Paris after the cholera outbreak of the 1830s, which was dramatised by author Victor Hugo in the novel Les Miserables. And while it's a stretch to envisage Australians rising up against the government anytime soon, we are being sorely tested by our leaders at the moment. Full employment doesn't mean full satisfaction. To explain why, let's bring in James Mathias from the Menzies Research Centre, who's been studying the labour market for years. James, welcome.
Good to be with you, Fred.
Firstly, James, there were 153 occupations with skills shortages last year. Now there's 286. You've studied the list. What did you find?
Well, that's right, Fred. And if you look at the list very, very closely, when you take out some of those technical, scientific and medical occupations, what you find is startling insofar as that a majority of those are actually occupations in which a pathway is through an apprenticeship or the vocational education sector. So this is a part of the system which is falling over in being able to train people to be able to take those jobs.
Well, the genesis of this, I believe, predates the pandemic by quite a few years. As far as I know, the role of vocation training belongs to the states, but it's the Commonwealth that finances it. This opens up an opportunity for the states to roar at the federal government. Is that the situation?
Well, what is usually the case when the Commonwealth and the states have to work together towards a policy priority, it falls over. And you're exactly right, Fred. So the Commonwealth constitutionally does not own a single apprenticeship. What they have to do is funnel money to the states and territories where they then spend it on what their priorities are. And so when the Commonwealth says we have a number of skills priorities over here and the state says no, we have them over here, then all of a sudden the state gets to spend the money. But what you found over a few key years in which investment was so important in this is that the Commonwealth was putting more and more money in every year. And if you have a look at the reports, you see what the states do is they pull more and more money out of their system. So they see it as a subsidy, where in actual fact the losers are people wanting to train as apprentices through vocational education.